Hey, Rentals Club members. Today I'm with David Engoti, the founder of SmokyMountains.com. And we'll be talking about building your brand, specifically how content marketing should be one of the tools you are using to build your brand, and how important is it for you that you can compete with likes Airbnb and Vrbo in a way and get direct bookings, for instance. And we'll start off with talking with David about results, because he will be able to tell us about how he did all this and share with you the tools, some frameworks, how he does all this, but also he's doing it for himself. And I think it's also very important when we do these kind of things, like we talk with people who actually walking the talk. Without further ado, David, thank you so much for taking the time. And how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So as I said, you are the founder of SmokyMountains.com. So maybe could you share a bit more about what you do out there, and also a bit about the results you got from using content marketing?
Yeah, sure. So SmokyMountains.com, when we started it, we had this idea that we wanted to positively impact every vacation to the Smoky Mountains region. For those that aren't familiar, the Smoky Mountains National Park is the top visited national park in the United States, has more visitors than the Grand Canyon or Yosemite, Yellowstone, any of the other big parks. We get well over 10 million visits a year into the park. And so we had this idea of, we have these towns that are around the park. We have all these attractions, these hikes, things to do. And we wanted to positively impact each vacation that happened in our area. At this time, we didn't even know how we were going to monetize the brand. We didn't know we were going into vacation rentals. We didn't know that we were going to become a micro OTA someday. We just knew we wanted to help people. And so that was basically our founding principle. And everything we did along the way was all tied into that, rather than, hey, come buy this thing from me. It was, hey, check out this amazing trail, or look at these beautiful sunset photos, or here's this information on when the fall leaves are most beautiful in our area. And so we did all of that and slowly started to build this brand through the content marketing, rather than through like this me-centered approach. It's worked really, really well for us. And we've actually at this point reached our brand goal, which is pretty much anybody that visits the entire area comes into contact with our brand multiple times during their vacation. And that's through content marketing. So this definitely works. You can build a brand from scratch up to millions of website visitors per year, but it doesn't have to be that way. This is something that anybody can do, and you don't have to do it at the highest level for it to make sense for a brand.
So if you understand, so you got great results, and congrats on that. And as you're saying, it's for big brands, people who want millions of visitors, but also for people who are, let's say, people like me who are like few properties, but still want to build a brand, right?
Sure. Yeah. So for example, somebody might say, hey, what even is content marketing? Does this work for a guy or a lady that has one rental, or is it only for somebody that has a couple hundred rentals? And from a far out view, you might look at somebody like Vrbo or Airbnb or a brand like mine and be like, this just doesn't even make sense. I can't compete in any way. What you have to realize is through content marketing, you have the ability to help others. You have the ability to educate others on your destination. You have the ability to positively impact vacations. And what you're doing almost by accident as you do this is selling your rentals. You're creating bookings, but it happens naturally rather than forced. Like you think about it, it doesn't feel great when somebody tries to sell you on something. If somebody's trying to sell you something and make you buy something and tell you that, hey, this rental is the best rental out of all these thousands of rentals, come rent from me, I'm the only one that can help you. That feels high pressure. It doesn't feel great. But all of a sudden, when you start talking about these great hiking trails that are right down the road from your rental and that are appropriate for the different demographics, at that point, it makes sense to rent from this person, because at that point, the content is actually amplifying your sales effort in a way that does not feel negative to the end user.
What's good, David? Actually, you've just started defining what content is, right? Because we talk about content marketing and how important is it to create your brand, and you just gave some examples, right? Like hiking trails could be like a text or a map, or could be videos. So could you define what content is in a way, and how to decide which way to go, which type of content to produce, and also, is it expensive?
Yeah, so that's a big question to unpack. So at the surface, content can be very expensive, or it can be very cheap, or anywhere in between. The thing to really just like kind of back up on is when we develop content, that content is there to help people, not to sell. It's not me centered. It's not about how my flat screen TV looks great in the unit, or this, whatever coffee maker I might have, or anything like that. That's not what content's there for. Content is to help that person understand how they're going to have a great time in your destination. Now, we can go at this really, we could get a professional video produced. We could develop an interactive that really helps end users, where it takes data and puts it in a way that ties it to the destination, and things like that could cost $10, $20, $50,000 even. Or we could do this in a much easier way. So where I tell most small brands to start with this, you don't need these expensive tools. There are expensive tools out there. We have Ahrefs, we have Moz, we have SEMrush, we have BuzzSumo. We have all these tools, but don't start with that. That's like, we were talking before the show. That's kind of like before you go to your first workout at the gym, buying, a $5,000 Peloton and shoes and all this gym equipment. You don't need all that. Just go out for a walk and see if you're going to stick to this. And so the same thing with content marketing. So what do your guests actually ask you about the destination? That's a great place for anybody to start. You don't have to have any tools. And so, for example, like some of the questions we received from guests from time to time, hey, what should I do on a rainy day? Guess what? That turned into a blog post. And now we have thousands of people using that blog post. Where can I take my dogs on hiking trails in the national parks? Or what can I do with kids in this destination? Or what are the restaurants that are open on Christmas Day? These are questions that we didn't need a tool for. We had guests asking us these questions. Our best pieces of content were things like, hey, when do the leaves peak in the national park? Because we want to come see fall foliage at its most brilliant colors. Or it might have been like, hey, what happens when somebody gets lost in the national park? So all of these things turned into really cool pieces of content. But if somebody wants to just dip their toes in the waters of a tool, there's one that's great. It's free. It's the best research tool for content in the world. And it's just Google. If you go to google.com and you start typing your destination. So for example, for me, it might be Gatlinburg, and then just stop. Don't type anything else. And you're going to see some suggested results there. So it might be like Gatlinburg restaurants or Gatlinburg hiking trails, but you'll see those different ideas that Google is presenting. Well, that's the best data in the world that is presenting what end users actually care about in your destination. So type the destination name and stop typing. You can do the same thing. Like let's say it was Gatlinburg, and then type the letter A and stop typing. And it will show you all of the ideas that start with Gatlinburg A, Gatlinburg B, Gatlinburg C, so on and so forth. And this is based on real end user data in your destination, what people actually want to learn about. One other thing that people could use is called Answer the Public. It's just a real visual, easy to use tool. And I would definitely recommend that one as well. It's free, just use the free version. Those are a couple free tools to get people started. But this isn't about tools. It's about answering the questions that end users actually have in your market, at least when you're first getting started.
I think it's a great point. And you mentioned the Google suggestions that people are getting, which again, are available, by the way, in any language. So it's really make sure you're searching your own language, by the way, because they do work. They're very powerful. And also you suggested answerthepublic.com. So these are just two free resources. And you've been kind enough, you've shared with us a link to a video where you actually talking about, I don't know, lost count, like 10 to 12 great tools. Some are free, some are paid, but that can be used for people to search. And I think what's interesting in the end is that whether you use a free tool or paid tool, it's also about starting doing it. Just like start executing, just like take one suggested keyword and try to make something useful around this. But so it's all about execution at some point, right? But let's imagine maybe I don't know how to do it, or I'm overwhelmed or too busy, right? I have to welcome guests. I can't be creating a PDF with a map of the best places, best hiking trails. How may I do that then?
Yeah, so the type of content would ultimately depend on or would direct who you're going to hire to help you out with this. So sometimes a written piece of content like, hey, what restaurants are open on Christmas Day? That's perfect for an intern. That's perfect for a staff member that's not doing much right then, because this isn't a really creative piece. You know, this is something anybody can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, are you open on Christmas Day? And you make the list and you put it in a blog post, and it's super helpful to somebody that's visiting your destination on Christmas. However, you know, something that's more visual, like photographic, what I would recommend doing is actually hopping on Instagram, and on Instagram, approaching different people that have regularly taken great photos of your area. And I wouldn't just write one, because they might come back with a really high price, but reach out to 10 or 20 different people and say, hey, what are your rates to go take videos or photos of this attraction or of this trail or of this point of interest in your market? And what you'll find is the prices are all over the place. But when you find somebody that takes really good photos and puts them up on Instagram, and then they have that price point that matches what your brand budget is, that's a great way to find a videographer or a photographer in your market for that type of content. On the written content side, when it's something a little bit more complex than, hey, what restaurants are open? If you have somebody on your team, that's great. If not, there are some really good resources out there. Writer Access is one that we use a lot. You can definitely get on there. You can recruit authors. You can set up a brief on there and really work with some super talented authors. Or you can just do one-offs to people that write for USA Today or even blogs in your own area. And we've had great success with that, with finding some individual authors as well through the years. So, but don't be afraid to just reach out to somebody that's written a great blog post for a blog in your area, or even for a newspaper, an article, and just see what they charge. It's not as bad as you think. These people aren't paid like, you know, a couple $100,000 a year that are writing articles, even for top newspapers. A lot of them you can hire for affordable rates, and they do a great job.
Mm. Very interesting. And once again, Writer Access, for example, is a resource you are sharing in a video. So again, make sure to check out the link under the article where we, you could really see what we're talking about. Again, as we just said, it goes from hiring an intern to having like Writer Access with like a whole, team of writers and editor, whatever you need to make sure that you are delivering content as you want. So, okay, I do all this. I have the right keywords, I could write content. Can I now be number one on Google? And on the keyword like vacation rentals? Can I do that, David?
You know, I wish I could say, hey, all we need to do is go write a couple blog posts and we're going to outrank Airbnb, Vrbo. That's just not the case. Hate to break that bad news. That's not the case for my brand either. So don't feel too bad. Where this does become fun, we can outrank them where we provide better content than them. And what that means is, what are they providing content about? All pretty much me-centered, book our listing. Where we can outrank them is if we create a great trail video, if we create a great restaurant review, if we have good photos of the best places to take sunset photos with a guide on how to do that, we can absolutely start to outrank Airbnb, Vrbo, any of these brands for the experiences, right? And that's what people are booking. They aren't booking a vacation rental because they like your bed, or they like your flat screen, or they like the kitchen. They're booking it because they want to come and have an experience. And so the content is actually what they're drawn to your destination for, what you're writing content about. And so what you can outrank them for is the exact things they want to do when they come to your area. And so it's actually a really cool thing. We use a pretty complicated process for this called COB analysis, which just stands for keyword opposition to benefit. And it's basically the idea, we don't go for a term like vacation rental right away, but we might go for a term Laurel Falls Trail. And we go for all these other terms that collectively create way more traffic than one term over here that's a big term like vacation rentals. And through all of that traffic, we're able to drive direct bookings. And we do them, and it's a bit of a misnomer, but in a free way. There's obviously a cost still associated with it, but we aren't bidding against Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and all of these brands in the pay-per-click game. Instead, we're creating the content that will work for us forever.
That's fantastic, David. I really love what you said in the end, right? The content is about the experience at your destination, right? Experience plus destination equals great content that obviously there's no way Verbo Airbnb can create. They can't be experts at every possible destinations, right? They're smart, but at some point they can't beat local experience. So
Exactly. Yeah, it's taking the battle to the right place. We don't want to go to war with Airbnb on their turf. We want to go to war with them on our turf, and we understand our destination much better than they ever will. They're going to understand web development, software engineering, conversion optimization, some of those things. They're going to always understand better than us. But we will always understand the restaurants in our destination, the insider tips in our destination in a way they can't. They just simply can't.
So David, you did this for Smoky Mountains, as I said, and you've shared. So people check out smokymountains.com. As I said, there's a link as well to a video. I think it's about almost 45 minutes where you're actually explaining and showing each tool we just mentioned and more. So third, let's imagine people want to reach out to you. What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, they can shoot me an email. I'm just david@smokymountains.com, or they can hit me up on Twitter, David Angotti on Twitter, or on LinkedIn. I'm available on all those places, and love hearing from people in the industry. Always like chatting with people and helping people out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David Angotti. You are the founder of smokymountains.com, and thank you so much for your insights on content marketing.
Well, thank you for having me, and have a great day.
Thanks.